I could tell you about Bronny's 30 points, but I'd rather just say our long national nightmare is over. Basketball is back. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, and FSWA Hall of Famer, Steve Dr. A. Alexander. And as we're going to get into a 30-team review here, before you guys get settled in, if you guys could check your show notes, hit that Discord link, get into our Discord, subscribe to this podcast, hit it with a 5-star review, all that good stuff. We're doing tons of different content, and we're going to say this until you guys kind of get settled into these different locations here, but we're putting different stuff out in different places. So we want you guys to follow the pod because that's got its own stuff. If you watch this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up button there as well. We greatly appreciate it. It helps us out so much with various algorithms and things like that, allowing us to get more butts in seats, basically, so we can build out more tools for you guys. And again, get you guys the content that you guys want. Also, check us out on Blue Sky. All of the handles are more or less the same. Ethos Fantasy NBA will get you started. And then myself, I don't know if Doc's got a Blue Sky yet. We'll have to ask him on the show here right now. And yeah, if you guys do that, you'll be all locked in. And then that helps us out as well. So thank you guys very much. I hope you guys are having a great holiday season. And let's get going here. Before we do, though, let's say hello to the sponsor. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to Bet Online today, and don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here. Bet Online. All right, Doc, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I just want to clarify because we're not going to talk about it again, but Ronnie did not have 30 for the Lakers. It was in the G League. So I'm sure there's somebody like, wait, did I miss Ronnie scoring 30? No, it was.
I didn't qualify that with the G League. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, no. I mean, dude, I guess it could have happened in the NBA. But yeah, how are you?
I dreamt about sports ethos literally all night. And it was crazy. Like Cameron and I were like in a hotel room, and he was on one bed with his computer, and I was on the other bed with my computer, and like just nothing was going right, and it was just nuts. And we ended up both falling asleep on the air. And I woke up like 2.5 hours later, and I opened my computer, and it's still recording, and it's still like live on YouTube, and it was just bizarre.
Is this why you woke up early this morning?
Well, I'm glad. I needed that dream to end because it was turning into a nightmare. But
I hate to inform you, Steve, that's actually how the show went last night.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. No,
and that's why we had the best show we've ever had in sports ethos history. And
I think in the dream I was yelling at Rick. I was like, dude, this is why we need Andre here. Like when Andre's not here, it doesn't go well.
I don't ever remember my dreams like that. I know they're great at the time or bad or whatever. I just can't like rattle them off like you just did. That must have been a hell of a dream. Please, by all means, Doc, intersplice whatever analysis we're going to do with whatever happened in that dream. I'm sure folks really want to know what you guys were doing in the hotel room, Vegas or Daytona.
Yeah, I don't know what city we were in. I don't know why I don't know what was going on.
Des Moines. I don't know. Shout out Des Moines. All right, we're going to get through these games here. Basically, we're looking at tonight's action, and then the NBA is back. You know, we had this weird little week where there weren't a lot of games, and it was actually kind of cool. It was a little bit of a mini all-star break, rest your jets kind of a deal for not just us, but teams. So a lot of those knick-knack injuries that have been going on out there, those things are starting to heal up. So that's great news there. But yeah, no, we got a ton of basketball coming up this end this week and the start next week. So we're just going to get right into these Friday games and then head on into the weekend's games and try to break down what we're seeing from a bigger picture. Let's start with Indy and Philly. I feel like we talk about these teams all the time. For me, I think in Indy, the big one is still, I feel like a little bit of a boring topic now, but maybe not because it's such a high value topic. It's Tyrese Halliburton. He's currently ranked number 40 in 8 cat per game. Let's do a little check-in on him. How are you feeling about him? I drafted in the first round, late middle first round in almost every draft for standard leagues. do you think this is a buy low chance still for Halliburton, or do you think that this is what he is right now?
I mean, I think it's a bit of a buy low situation. I don't feel great about him long term. I think if I drafted him instead of Anthony Davis, I'm kind of like kicking myself. He's been so bad on the road, and this game tonight is on the road. It's at Philly. So let's see if he can have a good game on the road. He's had one good road game this season, and the Pacers are 3-11 on the road. And the reason they're 3-11 on the road is because Tyrese Halliburton has had a really bad year.
Yeah, that I think it runs deeper, and that these pieces don't really fit that well. Too many kind of B guys. Halliburton's really a B guy.
They worked last year.
They did. They sure did, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they looked great at various junctures late last season after the Pascal Siakam trade. But I've always wondered about his game in particular. He's got a kind of ball dominant game and doesn't rack up a ton of assists, and I wonder. You would think that might work well next to a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, but Halliburton actually does need the ball in his hands quite a bit, both for his own offense, but for the entire team to hum. I wonder if it's just a little bit, maybe addition by subtraction there. And Benedict Mathurin, to kind of look at the rest of the team here, he's fallen to 107 and 8 cat per game. He's another guy that needs the ball in his hands. And actually, it's a real good idea to have the ball in his hands. He's doing pretty well. Where do you peg his value for the rest of the season?
It's kind of hard to say that Nembhard and Neesmith have been out. And Mathurin was doing really well while that was the case. Now they're back. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep it going. But Mathurin got hot there for a minute, and it was pretty fun. I wish they would make him more of a focal point. But, I mean, I think he's going to linger around that same spot he's at right now. I think that's sort of where he's going to be for the year.
It just feels like they don't have an identity. It's like they don't want to take on the identity of Tyrese Halliburton, maybe because he's struggling. And Mathurin's a guy that absolutely you could just kind of let him go, and he could just get you a ton of buckets. And then that would shift the identity further away from Halliburton. And then it's not like they want to do that. I really think they should kind of consolidate some of their offensive players into, maybe go out and get a defensive guy and try to change it up. And I think they will try to change it up with the way things are going. I just don't know in today's trade market if can you even make a trade anymore? Let us know. On the other side of the line, the Sixers are. You had something, Steve?
I was going to say, is there a typo on my depth chart that I'm looking at, because I don't see a big red O or a big red DD next to Joel Embiid's name?
Oh, very good. Yeah, I don't believe there is. So I guess he'll be playing, and it makes sense, a little bit of time off for these guys. And I mean, the value is all over the place with Embiid. I don't think really looking at his value makes a lot of sense right now, because of course it's the world's slowest ramp up we've ever seen. So that's kind of an outlier. This week 0 rest should theoretically be the best case scenario for him to come out and have a good game. Also, a team in Indy that's got one big man and that's it. That's a great recipe for Joel Embiid Joel, try to train myself into the right enunciation there, for Joel Embiid to go out and just dominate. So if he's not dominant, that might be a little bit of an issue. So he's back at any rate. Tyrese Maxey is number 36 in 8 cat leagues. Paul George is number 61 in his 12 games. How do we feel about, let's start with them. Let's start with Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. How do we feel about these valuations? Do you think Tyrese Maxey as a 3rd round player and Paul George as like a just outside of the 5th round play, just outside of the 5th round, you think that's where these guys ultimately sit? And how's the whole Philly thing going for you?
I mean, I'm not messing with Paul George, but he has not been great. He hasn't popped much this year. Maxey third round. I mean, I think that's probably where he's going to be when it's all said and done. George fifth round. That sounds about right to me. So, I've got Paul George on one roster, and I'm not thrilled about it, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I think Paul George will heat up a little bit. I think we might see him take on like third or fourth round value. Maxey, I could even see him climbing a little bit. I think that second round value is not out of the question for him, with or without Embiid around. I think Embiid might suck the oxygen out of the room, both literally and figuratively, for say the next 2 to 3 weeks. But I think at the end of the day, they want Maxey doing a lot of the heavy lifting for this squad, and maybe it'll come from Embiid, or maybe it'll come from the rest of the squad there. And you're not messing around with Embiid. I know that much. Let me get a quick prediction from you about, is he washed or not?
Who, Embiid?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's washed.
No.
I mean, I think he's eventually going to be very good again, but I don't know that we'll ever be able to trust him to actually be healthy. I mean, being washed is one thing and being healthy is another.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good piece of news. Like, you've been pretty down on Embiid, not wanting anything to do with him forever, it feels like. And I know we took a couple shots here and there, on Embiid, and basically, very scared the entire time. Like, this is not a good idea. We should not be doing this kind of stuff. And then basically, he's looked terrible. Like in the first few games, there's been games he's looked terrible. And I know the thought crossed my mind. I was like, is this dude washed? It's hard to say. So the fact that you don't think he's washed, and I kind of don't think he's washed after the most recent performances. And that's great, because I do think there is this potential for him to be washed, and that's what we're all watching for. Speaking of washed and Washington at Cleveland's the next one on the list. We got the Wizards sort of pivoting into what is likely to be, a sell mode as we get here to the trade deadline, which I can't believe I'm even saying, but it's 2 months away. January, February. Yeah, 2 months away, the trade deadline. So you might start to see the Wizards profiling their wares, but the story in Washington has kind of been about Justin Champagnie. We got another Champagnie in the mix. And Keyshawn George has sort of disappeared. What would you say? Would you like a Justin Champagnie on your team, or would you like to see Keyshawn George make his way onto your fantasy squad this year?
I'm very intrigued by Champagnie. I wrote about him in the waiver wire column this week on Sports Ethos. He's hot, but it's a very small sample size. Like 3 games basically. He's played in a few more than that, but he was getting like 1 or 2 minutes. He's played over 34 minutes in his last 2 games, and he put up really solid numbers in both of those games. So I only need to see it, 1 or 2 more times before I'm gonna think about hopping on it. And especially if I've got a guy on my team that I'm like, okay, I've had this guy on my team for 2 weeks. It's not working. I need to cut him. And Justin Champagnie's sitting out there. I think it's worth a shot if things go well again tonight in his next game.
Yeah, it's the timing on that would be great. And then it's interesting because George in about week 3 looked like possibly the guy that might take the baton and just run with it all season long. And then in came Malcolm Brogdon, and that stunted everything for everybody on the squad. And it really took George and just threw him to the bottom of the barrel there. But he's a guy that also profiles pretty well to be a last half of the season guy. And at the same time, Champagnie has been pretty awesome lately. I remember watching Champagnie put up some decent lines last season and thinking, you know what, hey, that might actually be something. He might just be a stat collector kind of a guy. And then lo and behold, after a real, summer and early season of non-relevance, he's back and he's getting these big lines again. For me, it would be Champagnie between the two of these. And I hope, because, you know, the Champagny thing, I don't know. I'm rooting for these Champagnies. They're brothers, right? Are they related? Or are they just random Champagnies out there? I don't have that fact. Andre can tell me that. Yeah, but I'm just rooting for what I kind of root for things that, you know, you see, and then and you file them in the back pocket, and then you see them happen later again down the road. I think Champagny is going to be pretty good if he could keep it going there in Washington. But maybe it will be bumpy while they're still not all the way selling. Twin brothers, possibly.
Malcolm Brogdon is out still, so I'm still waiting for the Bob Carrington explosion to happen again, and I think it's coming. Like, he's a guy that I think you hang on to, and at least until we see Malcolm Brogdon back. But the chances of Malcolm Brogdon finishing out the season in Washington are not great, and I just think Bob and Champagny both could be silly season superstars.
Yeah, it's looking at the silly season and thinking who profiles well as a silly season superstar, which might happen early for this squad. And then, you know, Koulibaly and Carrington, you'd kind of almost just have to rank above Champagny and George, just because, you know, they're parts of this team. They've got established roles. I'm curious if maybe Champagny might leapfrog one of these guys. I don't know which one, but that's kind of far out thinking. What about Koulibaly and Carrington? Like, if you had to pick between those two, because I think you got Carrington. Yeah, I think that's a really tough question, because Koulibaly, I think, has a better stat set, and then Carrington has like this sort of jackpot. You know, if things really get going for Carrington, I think he could possibly just go off for, you know, more defensive stats than you would have accounted for in the first place. And then the stats across the board. And yeah, the shooting percentage might be bad, but he might just have these big poppy stat lines that you know, we kind of talk about next season. Koulibaly is probably going to be good. Maybe not great, but he also has a lot of pop. I think I'd rather have Koulibaly, but it's tempting to put Carrington on top of that list. Let's get to the Cavs side. With Max Strus, a former writer I used to work with. With Strus returning, A, is he worth adding? And B, is he going to slow down this juggernaut of a Cleveland squad from a fantasy perspective?
I don't think so. I don't think
not too many cooks in the kitchen there.
No, man, they've been so good, and everything runs through Darius and Donovan and Mobley. Strus is going to be out there just as a warm body and a 3-point shooter. I'm not expecting big things from Strus, but I also don't expect him to muck it up.
No Magic Strus from last season, where he's out there controlling the offense, getting like 8 assists a game, you know, or in a game, I should say. Nothing like that.
Not as long as everybody's healthy, but, you know, injuries are bound to pop their head up at some point.
Does this knock Ty Jerome and Karis LeVert all the way out of standard leagues?
Man, Ty Jerome's been invisible
for a while, for about a week or two.
Got off to such a hot start, and then it's just everything has calmed down. Like, I'd rather have Bob Carrington. I'd rather have, you know,
LeVert's been like a top 90 guy in the season. This is probably enough to knock him back, yeah?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, LeVert's been right there on the borderline of being a guy to have on your roster. And Jerome was for a minute, but I feel like that is going away. It's gone away.
Yeah, there's been a lot of quiet games, and it's just hasn't been panning out the last couple of weeks, which is too bad, because it's been a great start. Hey, guys, are you enjoying the live show? Leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the Sports Ethos YouTube channel. Thank you. Muy appreciado. Charlotte at Chicago. Hornets. Looks like you guys are all in. You and Rick are all in on Nick Richards over Mark Williams. Is that the truth? Or is that just
yes,
rumor and innuendo? You guys are all in on Nick Richards. What do you think about Mark Williams? Is he going to have standard league value?
Mark the Myth.
Mark the Myth Williams. That's good.
Yeah. No, so you guys, he's playing, 12 minutes a game? I want nothing to do with him.
I will say this about Mark Williams. I think that this week rest that's been just kind of hanging out here for teams has been a great time to bring players like Mark Williams along super slowly. Like they could just here's the 10 minutes. Let's get you on the court. Let's get you a little live action. Let's see how things sit and react, especially with a foot injury. So I'm willing to give Mark Williams a little bit of grace for about like a week, and just before I decide that Mark Williams is just going to completely not be a thing this year, because I do think Nick Richards has done something to establish something. I don't know what it is. Like, has he established a starting position in 25 minutes per game? Has he established just 25 minutes per game? And Mark Williams is going to be a low 20s guy. I don't think Richards is going away anytime soon. And as we've talked about on the show a lot, I just think it comes down to his blocks. If he's a blocks guy, if he could just be, a little bit more of a blocker than he's been in the past, I think he'll be a top 100 guy. If he's more than that, he'll be a top 80 guy. If he's less than that, he'll be a top 120 guy. And it's pretty simple math at that point. So Mark Williams is going to have to play 25 minutes per game and be good to also be a top 100 guy. It's possible they could do a little poor man's Dallas thing there, but not likely. On the Bulls side, I think we got the trade rumors opening up here with Zach LaVine and Nick Vucevic. Vuce is a tough one to move, as are a lot of players. How do you rank these guys in Chicago if things open up via trade? You got Giddey, Dosunmu, Pat Williams, Vassellus, Jalen Smith. How would you rank them in order?
You just can't quit Jalen Smith, can you?
Nope. Can't do it. No, actually, I have quit him. I quit him cold turkey. I'm not even tracking him, actually.
I'm going to say Dosunmu, Giddey, Williams, Jalen Smith, and I'm putting Matas Vassellus probably third on that list.
Interesting. So you said Giddey, Williams.
I said Dosunmu, Giddey.
Giddey.
Okay. I'm going to say Dosunmu, Giddey, Vassellus, Williams, Smith.
Oh, wow. That's a real leap of faith in Vassellus. I mean, I like it. I think the guy should probably be getting more minutes. Billy Donovan isn't that kind of a coach, so it never happens that way. I love that you have Dosunmu over Giddey. I think that that's a reality that folks just need to kind of get with. I mean, Giddey's got the big name, the big following, but it's been all Dosunmu all season, and until Giddey can hit some shots. Now, Giddey did have a decent little week, though.
Giddey's been good. I mean, Giddey's been fine. I mean, flirts with triple doubles all the time. What is he shooting from the field? I'm gonna pull him up here real quick.
It's like 44, maybe. Is it lower?
Yeah, 44, 69 from the line. When he shot 80% last year, that's half the problem. That we're dealing with this. 2.6 turnovers isn't helping. Less than a steal, less than a half a block. So none of those things are helping, but 12 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, almost a steal, over a 3. I'm fine with all of it. The percentages are not that bad. And hopefully his free throw gets closer to 80 instead of 70.
Yeah, that free throw thing, and it's early enough in the season where you could see that thing regress, and it probably will regress. So that begs the question, if that's the thing holding you back in, say, a head-to-head league where you're not counting on his steals or blocks and you're not worried about the percentages, you just don't want to punt 4 categories, right? Or 5 categories if you count threes. Like, you just want to have, at least a handful of categories that aren't being punted like that. If the free throw gets worked out, I think that puts him back in play to be more of a head-to-head guy. Dosunmu's just had a great season, so that's cool. Pat Williams is getting healthier. I think he's at a 24-minute limit right now. Vassellus is just super interesting because he blocks shots, shoots threes, and he's kind of nasty. The stats haven't been there this season, just like they haven't really been there for Jalen Smith. But yeah, I'm down with throwing Vassellus over Pat Williams, see if you catch lightning in a bottle. I mean, it'd be great to see if they leaned into that and let the kid play. Lakers at Minnesota. We got the Lakers are kind of doing that thing they do every season where the drama machine cranks up. They're not playing well. Everybody talks about it. And then they talk about what they're talking about. And then the next thing you know, we're opening the show with Bronny. What do we got in Lakerland?
LeBron's not playing, right? Like, that's the big news for personal reasons.
Yeah, well,
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. And is Austin Reeves out for this game?
Yeah, well, he's getting a little healthier. He's questionable for tonight's game, and so I think that'll be huge for them if he can come back. He's a big stabilizer for those guys. Um, I don't know, like, is LeBron in trade rumors? Like,
Yes.
are you will like are you? I mean, of course he's in rumors, but like, is anything legit?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I
So
think
you've
so.
crossed that threshold. You've crossed the I know for those of you who don't know, I've worked with Steve for a very long time. Like during trade season, like remember the melodrama season? You just like refused. You're like, I will not participate in any of this BS. It sounds like you're participating in the BS right now. It's gone past BS, and you're thinking maybe there could be something there.
I mean, there's trade rumors where I don't care, and I don't want to get involved, and I don't want to speculate and guess, because half the if we spend a ton of time talking about trade rumors, we're going to get like one or two of them right and like 15 or 20 wrong. So I don't see the
Like
point
Jimmy
of
Butler to
doing that.
Phoenix. You want to do a whole show on Jimmy Butler to Phoenix?
Well,
Break down all the angles.
Jimmy Butler is going to get traded. This much I know.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's actually one that seems like it's done.
It feels like he was traded
Not
yesterday.
not to Phoenix, but like
Somewhere.
that. We'll
Maybe
talk about
Phoenix.
Miami in a second. Austin Reeves has been upgraded to probable, so that's good news.
Okay, but I do think that there is a chance LeBron could get moved. I mean, this is not working.
It's not. I think I've actually made like a decent little like run out of it. I'm especially looking at the preseason episodes we were doing with folks from Lakerland, Trevor Lane, and all of the bad roster construction with no real chance to get it done. I feel like they were compelling a little bit early on. It felt like players like Rui Hachimura, who's, by the way, just inside or outside probably of the top 108 cat leagues. He's been good. I mean, you got Dalton Connect's been good. D'Lo's been bad, but kind of a little bit better lately. But in terms of just the overall team play, you get good play out of Hachimura, you get good play out of Connect, LeBron, and AD, especially AD. Really good early. And so I thought, hey, that's a win for these guys. At least they're somewhat competitive. Yeah.
I mean, just because Hachimura's fantasy stats say that he's top, whatever you said, 110 or something.
Well, the devil's in the details.
Doesn't mean he's out there balling out for the Lakers. Dalton Connect's been terrible. Like, he's been terrible. Like, I'm very.
Oh, you're on the Dalton Connect's terrible wagon right now. I love it.
He's been terrible. He's been terrible.
For the last week or two.
I'm actually excited. He's been terrible since he had that huge game. Like, he's had one game.
He got the wind in his sails and he let his foot off the gas.
But I'm excited to see what he does tonight with LeBron not there.
Yeah.
And the fact that LeBron's not there is weird. Personal reasons. Like, I'd love to know what's really going on, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess the talk of him playing in all 82 is over. Like, it's not going to happen. So more days of rest are probably coming for LeBron now that dream has died. But
Andre's poo-pooing on your LeBron trade ideas in the private chat. Just thought I'd let you know. I think so. Buy low on Austin Reeves is majorly in effect. Those percentages that he's shooting, that's a complete regression situation. That's going to even itself out. Just like the other day, talking about player of the year, Grayson Allen, with his shooting percentages, they're almost, you either believe that he's forgotten how to shoot or you don't. With Austin Reeves, I really highly doubt he's forgotten how to shoot. Like, so when the bounce back comes, especially if there's weird stuff going on with LeBron and such, that's going to be, something of a feather in your cap. I turned the sound off on my machine. Sorry, editors. Connect. Are you going to advise a hold or a speculative add now that he's sort of rock bottomed out, or is he dead to you already?
No. I've still got him on a few teams. I've dropped him in. I'm so mad, Brew. Last night at the end of our show, Rick and
I thought you were going to say dream.
I went on a rant about how much I hate this week. And you were at the beginning of the show, you were kind of like, oh, this week's kind of neat. Everybody gets a rest. Everybody gets a break. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Everybody on my 30 team is playing one game this week. Everybody on my Yahoo,
brutal out there.
Everybody on my Yahoo team's playing 1 week because I have all those clippers everywhere. And I didn't care enough to study the schedule like the psychopath I used to be about this. So I'm paying for it right now, and I just want this week to be over. So I haven't even looked at my rosters. You know how you can go in and tell it to set your roster for the whole week? I'm like, well, I don't have to go make any decisions because there's only 2 games a day. I'm over this week, dude. I hate it.
Moderation is bad. Being a degenerate is good. Signed, Steve. Minnesota, they're the other side of this game. I mean, that should be entertaining. Anthony Edwards has been fun to watch lately. I mean, he's screaming like a maniac in his win against Golden State, and then they come back, and I was like, oh, why you got to go do that, Aunt Edwards? You're going to get smacked in the next one, and they did exactly that. That was fun. This team, it's doing kind of what we all think it's going to do, but Dante DiVincenzo is just struggling. Do you think he's a stash, or do you think he's just somebody to watch closely?
I don't think he can be this bad all year, man. I just don't. Him and Grayson Allen both. They have to be better than this. He's getting minutes. He's not doing anything. I think half the problem is Ant is taking 10.5 triples a night every game. He's shooting 11 3-pointers every game. He is chucking. But I said that, but somehow he's hitting 43% of them. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like he's shooting about not too different from 3 as he is regular field goal percentage. So it's just a weird thing, man. I thought Ant was going to come out and just like blow up the league, but he's sort of he's having this kind of the same year he had last year with more threes and less assists.
Well, teams certainly don't respect other players on his team. Like, I don't think the opposing team is like really too concerned if Julius Randle beats them. And you knew that was the first name I was going to mention. They also aren't concerned that Rudy Gobert is going to beat them. So that's a couple things right there. One's a big offensive engine.
Conley's going to beat them.
Yeah. So he sees 5 guys in the paint. And I think what it's exposed is that Ant Edwards doesn't have an amazing dribble drive finishing game. I mean, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it's not amazing to beat 5 guys in the paint. Like if you got 5 guys in the paint, you really do need to have all the tools. And a lot of his stuff is Euro step and, a lot of jumpers and, he can rise up and yam on somebody, but does he have all of the different finishing, layups and all of the different package of things that somebody like a Steph Curry has? He's still trying to figure that aspect of his game out. So I think that's why he's fallen in love with the 3 is he knows he can get that thing whenever he wants. And the other team's like, sure, you know what, as long as you're not tearing us apart, in the middle of the defense, we'll just live with that. And that's been the story there. The Dante stuff, yeah, he's a great basketball player and they're just sort of wasting him right now in Minnesota. And that's good and fine. But, I do think stashing him is a good move. It depends on the size of your league. If it's a shallow league and, only top 75 plays, that might not be worth the stash. But if you're in a situation where the top 150 play or you have 156 players being rostered, and you need somebody who can reach up and get you top 75 upside, I think Dante's that guy. And then if an injury happens, I think he would step into that value real quick as well. Brooklyn at Memphis. Brooklyn is a weird team as usual. You got Cam Johnson tearing it up. He's been a top 55 player in 8-cat. If you're selling high on Cam Johnson, I'm going to make this a little fun here. If you're selling high on Cam Johnson, which seems to be like, would you sell high on Cam Johnson, Doc? Or would you just ride it?
I'd probably ride it. I mean, I don't know who else. Cam Thomas has been out. That's helped. Schroeder's been up and down.
The video feed is super instructive right now as to what's going on with this conversation. I love it. But you would ride Cam Johnson. You would keep him. Yeah. let's say you were selling. I think you got to sell Cam Johnson. I think this is, I mean, it's kind of gambling, right? Like there's no like science here to say that, hanging on to Cam Johnson is right. Maybe there is some science to it. Maybe that's a good project for somebody out there to work on, is like a player like Cam Johnson with a little bit of injury history and a team that's tanking and, players in that kind of a situation. Do you just milk the value out of it and say, you know what, I'm not going to play the sell high game. And then, trades can't happen in today's NBA or whatever the result is. And it was just better to hold. I think that's an interesting kind of project for somebody to look at.
I don't look at Cam Johnson and think, oh man, we're just hanging on until he gets hurt and then we're screwed. I don't feel like he's that kind of injury prone guy. And I mean, he's playing at a high level. He's like 90% rostered at Yahoo. His rankings are strong. He's just having a good year, man. And like Dorian Finney-Smith's not going to take that away from him. Jalen Wilson's not going to take it away. Zaire Williams, Ben Simmons, they're not.
What about your guy, Cam Thomas? Cam Thomas will go rip the ball out of his cold, dead hands.
Cam's just going to go out there and bomb threes. Like Cam's going to be like, wait, Ant's taking 10.5 threes a game and I'm only taking 7.
I'm Cam Thomas, baby.
Nobody holds me back. Shooting more. But yeah, I just think Johnson's going to be solid. I think he's good to go.
I'm going to say I think you should sell him high. And then I want to ask you who, if you would do this, between Vassell, Porter Jr., and Gobert, would you want to sell said Cam Johnson, or Clam Johnson, if you will? Who would you want to sell Johnson for?
The only one of those guys I'd want to trade him for is Michael Porter, but I don't even know if I would do that. Where are they ranked?
Porter's in an 8-cat league. I think Porter's probably at about 73 or something right now without looking.
Where's Cam?
Right now he's at 56 in 8-cat. So he's doing really well. And
I'm more worried about Michael Porter Jr.'s injury history than I am Cam Johnson's.
I really think it has to do with Cam Johnson not knowing how to fall. Like I had a lot invested in Cam Johnson for a couple seasons there, and I would watch him run and jump, and almost as if he's in one of those ball pits. There's nothing that's going to possibly hurt him. He's just landing on his face like constantly, and maybe he got that figured out. Vassell's been a sneaky top 90 since kind of coming, or his entire season, but the slow play of his season. So that's an interesting proposition. You got a guy that's kind of hitting on all cylinders, and then you got a guy that's a iffy foot guy. Porter Jr., I probably would have Porter Jr., no questions asked, ahead of Cam Johnson. So if you've got Cam Johnson and you could go get Michael Porter Jr., I would personally make that move, though his injury history is substantial. Let's get to the Memphis side. Zach Edey's nearing a return.
Real quick on Vassell. Wow, he has been pretty good. I wasn't I didn't realize
it's a sneaky pretty good.
Oh, because it's all Wemby and it's all Sohan. Like I just kind of forgot. I mean, Stephon Castle, whose numbers are terrible.
He's not really popping on the broadcast.
And he only had 7 points. And he only had 7 points in his last game. But before that, the rest of his games are all double digits. And the numbers look pretty good. So
in a way, it's classic Vassell.
Yeah.
Like just sort of understated and good.
Yeah, and I just stopped paying attention.
He's a super buy low right now, I think. I don't know that I would have him above Cam Johnson just because Cam is on fire right now. And I would probably want to hang on to Cam Johnson in this case just to be able to move him for like a Michael Porter, or somebody that's even maybe a little bit better to that I could get more for Cam Johnson than I could get for Vassell right now. Maybe I'd be moving. I don't know. Actually, no, I like the idea of grabbing Vassell right now as a buy low. I don't think anybody right now thinks that he's a mid-round guy. I think right now they think he's a late-round guy with a ton of injury risk. So I would be moving on Vassell, selling on Cam Johnson, and then Doc can clown me later. For Memphis, Edey's nearing a return. What do you think about Edey? Are you in at all on Edey? Do you think this changes anything for Memphis?
He comes back and starts playing, I'll pay attention. But right now, I'm not like going to go stash Zach Edey. He's a rookie. He had some good games, but he didn't really do everything that we thought he was going to do, being the starting center for Memphis. Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a fabulous year. Santi Aldama's been great. I think we're going to go from, Edey needs to start for us and we need to see what we've got right now to, all right, let's take our time and develop this kid.
Yeah, that might have been the best move to begin with, especially since you've got my guy. What's my guy's name? Going blank.
Oh, Jay Huff.
Yeah, thank you, Jay Huff. We got Jay Huff hanging around. I think Huff. I think Huff's going to be decent in this league. That's your daily Huff update. Let's get it moving here. We got the Clippers at Denver. Kawhi coming back? Question mark? Soon? Our guy Law Murray had a beautiful report. I mean, he just killed this report. He had background reporting. He had stuff that nobody else had. And basically what it seems like is he's practicing with the team. Contact feels like it's coming in the next week or so, this week, perhaps. And then maybe 2 weeks from now, Kawhi is back. I know this is distressing for you. All of your favorite Los Angeles Clippers are going to take a hit, but how do you feel about that? And is there anybody that you think you should sell high on? Is there anybody that you're going to be getting rid of on your roster?
No, I haven't seen him play in 10 days. So I don't even remember who's on the Clippers. Hopefully, I find it hard to believe that Kawhi is going to suddenly come back and be ready to handle a full workload, and that Norman Powell is just going to dry up and fade away into nothing. It certainly wrecks Amir Coffey and Derek Jones Jr., who I also have shares of. It probably helps James Harden be more efficient if Kawhi's playing. So I'm not panicking about any of it because it's Kawhi Leonard, dude. And if he's back in 2 weeks, I will buy you something real nice, Clark.
I like the way you tap the brakes there. A burrito, perhaps.
I will buy you a burrito if Kawhi is playing in 2 weeks.
You will buy me a burrito. Okay. All right. I will
DoorDash
forward your call.
I will DoorDash to your house.
Okay. All right. I was going to request a nasty food truck that may or may not speak English. Happy to translate.
No, because those burritos are like $25. I'm looking for like the $9, $10.
Looking for like the $9. Well, you're not going to the right place. It's so I think this is Andre's putting deadlines on this. The deadline for this burrito is December 27.
That's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday! You get to get me a gift for your birthday.
Reno 911. I saw a clip today, and Terry, the guy that Nick Schwartzen's character, he's always on roller skates and wearing pink shorts. And
that's his name. I never knew his name. Okay,
Terry. Yeah, well, Terry's his character, but it's Nick Schwartzen is the comedian, and he was in a bathroom at Taco.
And in the show, or is this real? Is this doc?
In the show. No, in the show. And
you never know, right?
The main dude, the main cop was like, Terry, the good people at Taco don't want you in their bathroom doing these things. And the fact that this place was called Taco 4 times and they said the whole name of the store every time was cracking me up.
Taco. Well, I'll look for a good taco joint, and you're gonna owe me, sir, because I do think 2 weeks. I don't like my side of the bet. I really don't, but I think it's actually possible. And I thought that the reporting by Law was great in the sense that he's like, Kawhi hasn't played in December ever. It's almost as if this is the plan. It's always been the plan, and it was never not the plan. That he just doesn't play the early part of the season because he knows. All the talk about the NBA moving the league to 65 games or something. Some of these guys take that quite literally, and they say that's the season start. Then I'm going to ramp up. Then I'm going to have 40 games where I'm at full speed. And if you've got a knee that's blown, maybe that's the smart move. But at any rate, I'm hoping to get a burrito here.
Well, and the NBA community, the casual fans, like, oh, I don't start watching the NBA until Christmas Day.
Yeah. Why burn yourself out before Christmas?
Yeah.
The Kawhi Leonard story. Let's see. Denver. I got nothing. You got a spicy Denver take?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here real quick. I'm Jamal Murray. He's out again, right?
I don't think so. No, I think he got all rested up. But that's am I missing something?
I need to find different depth charts that I look at, because the one I have has an O next to his name. But Jokic has been sick. That's my hot take.
Oh, he's now out. No. Your depth chart you're looking at is fine. He's now out tonight.
Yeah.
So you're gonna pick up all your Russell Westbrooks you ever could.
If I drafted Jamal Murray, I'm kind of ticked off. It's just underwhelming, disappointing, injured. And Jokic is out there just balling out. And Porter, solid. Aaron Gordon, solid. And then there's Jamal Murray.
I think you're right. People who drafted Jamal Murray probably by and large should feel that way and felt like he was like a premium pickup wherever they drafted him. For me, as a fader of Jamal Murray, I'm actually looking at this and be like, hey, not bad. He played in 17 games.
I'm also a fader of Jamal Murray.
Yeah. So I look at it as like he's had a good season, but that's the nuance of it all. Let's check out Phoenix, the Grayson Allens, Utah. We got KD back. I'll hold my Grayson Allen talk for the end, but KD's back. Are you doing anything preemptive with the Jimmy Butler stuff? And I'll throw out that John Gambadoro, he's the man in Phoenix. Like, he's the guy that's got all the intel. He basically laid it out, and he's like, Phoenix is basically, they're going to look at possibly sending Beal somewhere, but a third team would need to be involved. And it's going to kind of come down to like what picks Miami can get out of it. And then, by the way, Miami is going to have to want to do that deal and not some other deal. And there may be some animosity between the Butler and Miami camps, though I kind of think they all look at it as business, and maybe it's not as bad as it could seem with some of the trash talk from Pat Riley over the summer. But are you going to preemptively plan for a Jimmy Butler arrival? Would a Jimmy Butler for Beal swap be something that moves the needle at all, or would it just be one sort of high usage guy for another high usage guy?
You know my answer, Brew.
He's not even thinking about it.
It's corn oil in exchange for peanut oil. I can't really tell the difference, Dave.
That's amazing.
I'm still waiting for Royce O'Neal to step up and amaze me.
He's been okay, man. He's been outpacing my Grayson Allen.
Kevin Durant's been out.
He's been a top 50 guy. You're Royce O'Neal. What more do you want from him?
Well, and he hasn't played well yet, so that's exciting. But
the harshness.
When I pulled up this depth chart, I was like, "Where's Jimmy Butler? How come I don't see him already listed?"
I mean, you thought that the orange hair was going to equal showing up on the depth chart. That's good.
Like, took me back to the early days at Roto World when we would a trade would go through, but it wasn't. A trade would be made, reported by Woj, but it wasn't yet official. And I'd move everybody over because I want the depth charts to be like perfect at all times. And then Matthew Pouliot would be like, dude, you can't move those guys till that's final. What are you doing?
Okay. I miss the days when there was standards. All right. I think that we're going to push this into some Grayson Allen talk here. Grayson Allen dings his ankle up, and he's in the middle of a top 75 run over the last week and a half. So that's where he sits prior to this little mini break here. And I do think that he's not on the injury report, so he's ready to go. Do you call him a must roster player going forward, knowing how much it's going to upset and disappoint me if you say no?
Oh, dude. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Grayson Allen, just like Dante DiVincenzo, both those guys should be on rosters. So yes.
Yeah, I love it.
But
the classic. But what?
I mean, I don't know in the current state of the Suns, or even if they get Jimmy Butler, that Grayson Allen is suddenly going to be thrust.
Jimmy Butler doesn't want to shoot the ball. He wants to pass it to Grayson Allen.
Not in Miami, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Miami, he's like, I'm done with
right
y'all.
now.
I'm done with y'all.
He's chilling. It's pissing me off. We're going to talk about Miami at some point. But okay, I'm going to put you on the record for Grayson Allen must roster player. What about the Jazz? Asterisk. What about the Jazz? Is there anybody there that you would like to talk about other than Lauri Markkanen? Because I want to force this conversation here. He's number 93 in 8 cat per game. Would you trade him? And then I got a list of players that would you trade him for? But like Lauri Markkanen in general, are you panicked? Do you think that he's just kind of a crap pick this season? Like, it's been crappy. He's been missing games. There's the back end of the schedule that's obviously a worry. Is this something where maybe it's a much too much being too down on him with all of those factors? Like, he could just sort of kind of cruise through all this and be a early round guy? Or are you looking to get rid of Lauri for somebody who might, to somebody who might think that way?
That was a long question.
I know. It was really bad.
I kept going. Is he gonna? Is it here? Do I talk now? No. I
think you probably we're still talking about.
I'm not a Lauri. I'm a never Lauri guy. Just like Tobias on Arrested Development is a never nude. I'm a never Lauri guy. So I don't want Lauri Markkanen on my team. I don't really want anybody from the Jazz. But I do kind of like John Collins. I like what he's doing. I kind of like Keontae George a little bit. But I think if Markkanen is still playing in March, I'll be kind of surprised.
So naturally, I would guess you would trade him for any of the following: Pascal Siakam. Yeah.
Yep.
Levine.
Yep. Dude, I still can't get over the fact that Zach LaVine is still with the Chicago Bulls. I just thought that was not possible.
It's today's NBA. You can't trade anybody. It sucks.
And I was reading somewhere about Zach LaVine, like how good he is when he's actually healthy. Like, he can score, he can play D, he can do everything, get his own shot, yada yada yada. Which I know that, but I just forget it because it's been so long since I've really seen him. I might trade Lauri Markkanen for Zach LaVine. Sorry, that was a long answer.
That's funny. I completely forgot you bagged on me for my question. I could have bagged on you for your answer. San Antonio at Portland. I know I should have. Champagne's doing great. Just felt like mentioning that. Castle, probably a good dynasty grab. But I want to ask you about Sohan. Is he a must roster player now?
I mean, he's kind of a double guy now, right? Or at least flirting with it. Yeah, I think Sohan's. Yeah, yes.
He's ranked basically 140 in 8 cat right now. So that's a pretty interesting ranking for the season for him. That suggests there's some staying power. I think he's a must roster in 200 player leagues. Probably should be rostered in 150 player leagues.
Yeah, but he missed the whole month. He was out. He missed all of November pretty much. And since he's come back, he's been pretty good.
They're kind of just experimenting with him. He's been playing a lot of center, and that helps with the big man stats. So that kind of might be the defining factor here.
I'm still angry that they started him at center over Zach Collins that one game. I'll never get over that.
You know what? Zach Collins, the fan base has turned on him, and something's just not working there with Zach Collins. Charles Bassey, I picked him up in a couple leagues, and I don't know if it's going to work out for me. I'm not extraordinarily confident about this, but it feels like they're just looking for something because maybe Zach is hurt. Maybe he's played his way out. It's a weird thing in the backup spot there. You would think that Collins would have a little bit more oomph, but he hasn't had it this season. On the Blazers side of this game, we're going to get news on Robert Williams, and Klingon seems to be moving a little bit faster in his recovery, so that's good news. I kind of think that Robert Williams will play in this game, but what are we doing there with Denny Avdia is probably my better question here. Like, is he a must-roster guy going forward? And then the second part of that question, I think that's probably a yes, but like second part of that question is, do you think he'll stay inside the top 100 the rest of the season?
I think he can. I've actually enjoyed the Denny experience this season. He's playing hard. He's out there fighting. He's got some dog in him. He's scored in double figures, I think, in almost every game except like 3 or 4, maybe. And Portland's terrible. And like Denny Avdia is not going to make Portland suddenly start winning games if they make sure they want to tank. Neither is Robert Williams, who practiced fully yesterday.
They won a lot of games so far, by the way, Portland.
They what?
They've won a lot of games.
They actually have, but they've lost 4 in a row. And they, like I was telling Rick the other night, like, did they start their tank too late?
Yeah, they might have.
They might have.
I mean, the flattened lottery odds have certainly changed things a little bit for this tanking situation, but the tank race, that is. They won too many games, Portland did, and that's going to really bite them. They're going to have to go full tank, or they're going to end up kind of middling along, and I think that's going to piss their fan base off. But Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot, these late round guys for you? Is that the best way to put it?
Shaedon's been disappointing, and I think that's just he's just not going to be a very efficient guy. And then Scoot's been late round a little disappointing as well. There's a chance for all 3 of these guys we talked about, Scoot and Shaedon and Denny Avdia, to all go off the second half of the season. So yeah, I think they're all at least worth keeping around.
That's interesting on the Sharpe and the Henderson stuff. It's easy to look at those ranks that are like back end of the 200 and start to dismiss them. But if they're going off and you're in a head-to-head league and you're ignoring certain categories, like that value changes real quick. And so it's good to hear that sort of contrarian voice on 2 players that are buzzy in ways that aren't great considering the rankings. Let's get to the Saturday games. We got Atlanta at Milwaukee. Atlanta coming off of their big win in New York. Trae Young. It's funny. He did whatever that was in the middle of the dice roll in the middle of the court. And New York's like, we don't care at all. We just are going to walk off the court. And I loved it. I loved it on so many different levels. But Atlanta playing big in that situation. They get the Bucks. I guess maybe quick take on the game. But what about anything in Atlanta that's catching your eye? Like, do you think Zach Reese-Shea has a future in fantasy leagues this season? That's kind of the only question that I have for this squad, other than everybody's doing great. Certain guys are doing great. Jalen Johnson's doing great. Dyson Daniels is doing great.
You just said in your question, does Zachary Reese-Shea have a future?
Yeah,
and I was like, leagues. I was ready to say yes, and then you said this season.
This season, like, yeah,
maybe. Like I've got him on a roster. He's definitely a guy that is on the bubble for me. Like, if he doesn't play well tonight and Champagnie does, I'll make that move, or whoever.
Which Champagnie? I'm messing.
Justin. The one that's in Washington. I'll go with that. But man, this Hawks team, Brew, I don't think you and I have talked about this, but Jalen Johnson has taken over this team. I don't think it's Trae's team anymore.
He's made a couple passes that have been so damn good that, I mean, not a shock, right? This is why yeah, last season was last season. Like, but like,
and I think it's good news for Trey. Like, Trey doesn't have to be the man. I mean, he loves playing in Madison Square Garden. He rolled the dice in the middle of the court, but he still only had 22 points. Like Trey is no longer that. Like with Dyson and Jalen and DeAndre Hunter playing the way he's playing, and with Bogey being good, and with Risa Shea getting meaningful minutes. Like Trey doesn't have to do everything he was doing, and he doesn't have all that pressure.
One thing I've noticed about the league, that free throw thing, or the way that they call the game, I think it might, I don't know. I don't have any numbers on this. Somebody who's writing articles that doesn't have TOS should go there and actually write this up. But like, I think they're officiating like they were that last third of the season. And if you look at Trey Young's free throw numbers, they're down. And I wonder how much of that has maybe, exasperated his fantasy performance. His field goal percentage is down this season, for Trey, and he doesn't have the ball in his hands as much. So maybe some of those fouls aren't being called. Maybe some of those kind of windows that he could previously navigate, they aren't available to him. And then, by the way, you have Jalen Johnson, who's just a rock. You can't like move him, and if he can handle, he's going to run offense. Same with Dyson Daniels. If he can handle, they're so athletic that they really, they can just provide a lot of flexibility for Atlanta to run different kinds of stuff. And they've been great. And that's why they've been top 20 guys in the case of Jalen Johnson, and Dyson's kind of right next to him, a cut or two back. But yeah, Atlanta, interesting stuff. Let's switch to Milwaukee. Do you think that there's concern that this is the dip for Brook Lopez is something that will be happening more going forward? I mean, it's been a little bit bad lately, or is this just like a natural dip and it's going to work itself out?
I mean, he dipped early in the season and then he caught fire, and then now he's dipped again. I think it's just going to be kind of the way it is with him for right now. I think I'm hanging on to Brook Lopez.
Let's get on to Houston at OKC. Houston's a really consistent fantasy squad, so I don't really want to go there. But let's ask this question for OKC. If you had to add somebody, would you add Cason Wallace or Alex Caruso?
Off the top of my head, without looking at it, I feel like Caruso's been decent for these last few games. So I guess I'm going to go. I guess I'm going to go Caruso, but I'd rather have your guy, either one of your guys, Dante or Grayson, instead of Caruso.
Cason Wallace has been getting it done. I'd rather have Caruso. I think he's more likely to survive when things normalize for this squad. Maybe there's more long-term value there, so I would take Caruso. But Cason Wallace has been kicking his ass, more or less. In the Sunday games, we got Orlando at New York. So in Orlando, Paolo, his return's obviously just looming. Who else do you trust most on this roster besides Suggs and Goga? If you had to pick a go-to for a streamer ad, or just to go somewhere else other than Jalen Suggs and Goga Bitadze, who would it be?
I'm still kind of mad. The last time they played, I think I had KCP, I had Tristan Da Silva, I had Cole Anthony, all in my DFS lineup, and it was Anthony Black that went off. Like, how is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope not doing more for this team? I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. Yeah, I don't understand it.
It's something it sounds like we might find out about at the end of the year, like Bruce Brown's knee issue last year that didn't really get reported on too much early on. And then eventually it's like, yeah, it was the knee. He could barely play. And there you go. But it would be weird after signing such a big deal. But it's a weird thing going on. How about on the New York side? I think I know the answers, but let's get them out on the record. Would you sell high on Cat right now?
Nope.
Just going to roll that top 5 value and just keep it going.
I'm not a big trade guy, bro. Like, if my guy's rolling, I'm just staying with my guy while he's rolling. I'm not going to trade Cat while he looks like an MVP candidate. Maybe that makes me stupid, but I just can't do it. I can't do it.
No, actually, I think the only reason that you would want to trade Cat is if you think that there's something going on with that knee. I think that's it. And so far, the knee has been on injury reports, and it's been just sort of there, but it hasn't been more than that. It hasn't looked like it's impacting him on the floor. It hasn't. And we're just talking about his history and Tom Thibodeau's reputation for running players in the ground. That's it. That's like tinfoil hat stuff. And until it passes the threshold of tinfoil hat stuff, I think you don't sell cat high, but you just watch very closely for this stuff. He'll probably, if it's hurt, play all the way till the death in New York. What about Jalen Brunson? You think a buy low there? He's got to climb in the ranks. He's at number 49 overall this season.
I think he qualifies as buy low. He hasn't been as good as we thought he was going to be, but he's surrounded by 4 really good players on the court with him, so he doesn't have to do as much as he has in the past. So
it certainly feels like all the action is getting funneled from Brunson to OG Anunoby. Like Anunoby's firing away at will. It's like the Knicks are happy to, kick, pass, get their initial action off of Brunson or Cat, and then the defense is willing to let those guys pass. OG is willing to shoot. The Knicks are willing to have OG shoot. It feels like that's the way that the game is flowing right now. But eventually, like, that's got to change, right? Like, this is Jalen Brunson's squad offensively, yeah?
I mean, it should be, yes. And also I haven't looked at it, so I'm probably misspeaking, but I don't remember the last time the Knicks had an offensive center like Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, their centers have just been myths over the past few years. So now that we've got an MVP candidate playing center for them, and you've got other good players around Jalen Brunson, this may be who he is on this team.
Let's check out New Orleans at Indy. We're going to do New Orleans side right now. Do you think Yves Missi is ready for primetime rest of season? Like, going to crack the top 100, or is he going to just kind of toil in the bottom late rounds? Which isn't toiling, by the way. That's pretty good, but
I don't know where he's going to end up, but I think he should be rostered everywhere, like almost every league.
Yeah, Daniel Tice looks washed to me. Yeah, Tice looks washed.
Tice has been invisible. Robinson Earl doesn't move the needle at all for me. Like, it's just like we were at, over the summer. We were all like, ooh, whoever Yves Missi is going to play a ton of minutes at center.
Would you start him in a Roto Games cap league right now? Like, looking for top 75 production, is he somebody that you would put into a lineup?
Yes, I would not be afraid to put him in a lineup right now. I'd be watching him carefully, but
yeah, exactly. I'm kind of with you on that, because it feels like he's right on the cusp of doing, say, a consistent top 90, which would play. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's look at Boston at Washington. Boston is just cruising. Pritchard, top 80 in 8 cat leagues. Do you think he keeps it going the rest of the season?
Yeah. Cam and I looked up his 6th man of the odds yesterday. Well, actually, our producer looked it up for us and then relayed it to us. And what was it, Andre? Like minus 250? Yeah, minus 250. Like, he's by far the biggest favorite to win 6th man of the year. He's having a great year. Boston loves him eating up those minutes. So some of their studs
Number
don't have
2
to.
is Amen Thompson at plus 1,000. Okay, so this is like almost like a walk, don't run. If you've got the funds and you're cool with making minus 250 bets, which you should be, he'd have to get hurt to not win that award.
Well, that was Cameron's like, I'm not touching that. What if he gets hurt?
Is that what he said? Yeah, that's the only thing that, you could be down a big number, but if you've got the funds, we might as well invest it. I don't think he's going to get hurt. It's not like he's running around crashing all over the place. He's a little dude that scoots along the ground.
And he had 7 threes the other night, double. Like, he's just balling, dude. And
he's playing for the team that's gonna be
blow
the number 1 seed in the East. Yeah, it's just sitting there waiting. In fact, after I get done with this show, I'm gonna go make that play myself. Dallas at Golden State to close us out here. Dallas, pretty boring, right? Like, I don't care whatsoever about this team. They're all doing what we thought they would. We could talk around the edges.
That's
what you
offensive.
got?
That's offensive. I went straight to Golden State. You said I'm not talking about Dallas.
I don't want to talk about Dallas.
Okay, then let's go to Golden State.
All right. Should Buddy Hield be an ad in all formats?
Dude, I don't know. I don't trust him enough to put him in DFS lineups. And he got off to such an amazing start, but that was a long time ago. We're almost at Christmas, and he's just been bad.
Not lately.
Explain it.
Not lately. I mean, he's not breaking down doors good, but he's he had the big game 2 games ago. So that was fun. I think they actually need him on the floor. And I don't know that they've come to that conclusion yet. And I don't know if it's like a rock solid 100% conclusion. Like it's definitely that they have to have Buddy Hield on the floor. But last game, 3 triples, 15 points, 4 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Yes, please.
3 blocks.
3? Holy moly.
But so he had that huge game against Houston, or the 3-block game against Houston. That's a fluke. In fact,
but he was out there scrapping in that game, and he was like a big piece of that team's identity in that game. So that. I mean, yeah, Andrew Wiggins was out. That was a battle. That was some great. Let's say this about the in-season tournament. I have actually enjoyed the games themselves.
Oh, I've enjoyed the tournament. I just hate what it's done to the schedule. But those 3 blocks were the first block he'd had like 17.
That's very fluky stuff.
But, and then
he's a cockroach. He doesn't go away in fantasy leagues, right?
He had that huge 27-point game Sunday against Minnesota. And his 3 games before that, he scored 4, 5, and 6 points.
He's a top 100 guy on the season, despite
because he was
like a 3-week stretch.
Because he was a top 20 guy after 2 weeks. I don't know.
The interesting thing that Andre's bringing up in the private chat is this: he need Gary Payton on the floor to sort of balance the whole thing out defensively. I
think he needs Andrew Wiggins not on the floor.
That could very well be the answer to the question here. I'm gonna say must roster Buddy Hield and buy low Buddy Hield. Though after the last 2 games, the price of doing business just went up. I think you could have gotten Buddy Hield for practically anything a second ago. I think he was available on waiver wires as well.
Well, he may suck in this game against Dallas, and then his value will be right back down in the.
Speaking of sucking, Pajemski sucks. Sorry, I mean it's not his fault. They talk about setting a guy up for failure. He just does not look like he has confidence. He doesn't he had wide open threes. He was passing them up in this last game. So who's going to play the Klay Thompson role? That's the thing banging around my brain. And I think that's got to be Buddy, all the warts and everything, the defensive issues, you name it. He's got to shoot threes for that squad. Otherwise, they can't use any of the Trace Jackson Davis lineups. They can't use Kuminga to the full extent they want to use Kuminga. I feel like they're living and dying with Buddy Hield right now. It's
dude, I can't believe you just said Kuminga's name without completely pooping on him.
I didn't want to get into a Kuminga discussion in minute 70 of the show, but
I have Kuminga, something to read off real quick.
There's a finger in the air for those who are not online watching.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
3-pointers. I'm looking at Andrew. I'm looking at Andrew Wiggins' game log. His 3-pointers every game. How many he made? 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1. That makes Buddy expendable. Is all I'm saying.
That is a great piece of analysis. It might make him expendable. It might be the shift in this team's focus to shooting 3-pointers. I just think with Pajemski 0.9 per game and 25 minutes per game. I don't know what the attempts are for Pajemski, but it's not 10 a game.
And I noticed
touting in the preseason.
No, it's not. It's not even close to it. And some nights Wiggins does take 10. And Wiggins the other night, I was looking at it. He was his over under for threes made was 1.5. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay away. And he hit 4. He's hit a ton of 3-pointers, and it's become a huge part of his game. So
the Buddy Hield debate
that hurts Buddy
rages on, and we'll be talking about this for sure for the rest of the season, every episode, I'm sure. Hey, thank you guys for your support out there. Thank you for your follows. Thank you for your thumbs up and the 5-star reviews. And please do subscribe on each of these platforms. We're going to be pushing out content. Before we get the old candy cane hook from producer Andre Lemush, who did another great show today, I wanted to just thank you guys and ask that you guys please enjoy this holiday season. Have fun out there, and we really do appreciate everything that you guys are doing out there for us. That's going to do it. Doc, you got any last words before I cut us out?
No, I'm out. I'm out of juice.
He's out of juice. Well, we'll get those engines reared up for tomorrow's show, and we'll see you then. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, presented by Bet Online. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.